Hello
Welcome back.
to Mental Recovery.
Really, that's where we're at.
Yeah, it's a podcast that we made.
Ooh, I like podcasts.
Do you?
Yeah.
I like hosting them more than watching them.
I listen to them. I listen to them at work.
I watch a lot of them.
Watching them means that I have to have time to watch them. And since I'm working 99% of the day, I don't have much time, but at least I get time to do one, like host one.
That's true.
So that's always fun. But welcome to Mental Recovery, like you said before.
Podcast. Male perspective.
All that fun stuff.
For the male perspective, from the male perspective.
Yep. What's the topic for this episode?
Addiction.
Ooh.
I don't know why you're excited about addiction.
Who isn't?
I mean, that's kind of true. If you're addicted to something, you're kind of
Exactly.
excited for it every time you use
I'm
it.
not
Yeah,
addicted to anything.
Yeah, no, nicotine isn't your best friend.
Oh, my lovely friend. Anyway.
Anyways, before he had it all over his face, this episode is going to be addiction. It's going to be everything from first finding it, trying it, to becoming addicted to it, and then the mental state from being addicted to it, and then whatever means necessary to recover from it. Because there are plenty of different addictions, from nicotine to soda to alcohol,
Yeah.
drugs, even porn.
Yeah, people don't realize that sugar can be addictive, especially in sugary beverages and stuff like that, desserts. They don't count it as a drug, so to speak, but it is an addictive substance because you try to cut it out, your body gets all weird.
Yeah, you have withdrawals and all that, just like if you were doing drugs and you tried to stop.
Yeah, withdrawals is a fancy term. I like to say your body gets weird.
Okay, sorry. So when you do something a lot over and over again, because he doesn't like using big fancy words, so instead of addiction,
I'm not the smart
I guess
one.
when you just do something over and over and over again, and then you go, no, I'm not doing that over and over and over again, your body goes, shut down, and then it tries to figure out what it's doing.
I mean, it's somewhat, how you explained it is somewhat similar to the definition of insanity.
True.
But anyway, I
got a question.
might have an answer.
No, you do.
Okay.
What are you addicted to?
Well, first off, nicotine, sugar. Is food an addiction?
Sort of. I mean, you kind of need food. It's like somebody saying they're addicted to water, but I mean, it's one of those, like if you overeat, if you do that kind of stuff, then yeah, it's an addiction.
Understandable. But yeah, I think just those two, just for the most part, nicotine and sugar.
Okay.
Because those are my two main vices. I'm trying to cut back on sugar, but I'm doing it slowly so my body doesn't go through the whole withdrawals and everything like that. But I have a question for you.
Shoot it.
Just so happens to be the same one. What are you addicted to?
Well, nicotine is the first one. Sugary beverages known as soda. So that. Food, but not really. I just really like food.
Yeah, he just doesn't show it like I do.
Yeah. But that, if we go list like everything I've been addicted to, porn was one of them for sure.
I mean, that's still one for me in all honesty.
Yeah, like it's not like it used to be for me, that's for sure. But it was one. It was. But let's get into it. Let's get into it. Have you ever cut out an addiction?
Yes. Yes, I have. I think the main one that I cut out that made me feel so much better is energy drinks.
Okay. What's an addiction to that? Like how many were you drinking a day?
Oh, God, I was probably drinking 5 or 6.
Okay.
When I was drinking Monsters, eventually I switched over to Bang and cut it down to like 1 or 2 a day. But the one time I had 2 and didn't do anything to try and calm my nerves down, like go to work out, because people know Bangs are usually pre-workout drinks.
Okay.
when I didn't go to the gym, I was shaking so much. Like, all of the hyperactivity in me was just, I was sitting at my desk at home and just vibrating, shaking like a mini bike. And I did not like how that felt. Like, my heart was fluttering, all that stuff, and it was just bad.
Yeah, and that was from drinking it. That's not even the withdrawals from it.
Yeah, that was just from consuming.
Okay, so when you cut it out, did you quit it like cold turkey, or were you having like sips here and there? Were you drinking one like a week?
Cold turkey.
Cold turkey?
Yeah.
Okay, so how'd your body react to that?
I was extremely tired. Just my energy plummeted because my body had started to rely on the energy drinks to give me supplementation.
Okay.
Like all of the stuff to make me be active. So when I cut it out, my body just tanked. And there was that. There was anger, because sometimes that can cause anger, just your body not feeling right, and then suddenly you're just upset at yourself about it, or upset at the most minute things.
Yeah.
But from my recollection, that was about it. Just,
okay.
Extreme loss of energy and like a hair trigger temperament.
Okay. Because you've never been like, you've never even done drugs.
No.
So I can't even say like.
The only time I've been high was because I went to a Slipknot concert, went down into the pit, and everybody else was smoking.
Oh, okay. So secondhand high.
Yeah. And apparently I don't know what happened, but I don't remember most of that night. It was stupid fun, though. Slipknot's great. But from what my dad tells me, I was not me.
Okay.
But yeah. And going back to the energy drinks, I think the last one I had was about 5 or 6 years ago, before I even started with this job that I'm at now.
Well, I mean, with it being that long, how do you feel compared to like when you were drinking them and you were like addicted to them?
Oh, now I feel great. I mean, granted, well, actually, yeah, everything's back to normal. My body started to bring back all the normal stuff that it would do, and it didn't rely on getting energy like from other sources.
Okay.
Besides food, fat, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
But what about you?
For what?
For an addiction that you kicked.
Probably smoking weed.
Okay.
But that was when I was younger. That was like high school.
Okay, so about 10 years ago.
Yeah. But that was probably like it for it, because it was every day before school. Basically, I would smoke with friends. Again, we had the farm, so I would go over there, smoke, and then by the end of the day, I wouldn't remember anything from any classes. Like, I really don't remember freshman or sophomore year.
Yeah, you were just going through the motions.
Yeah, like, I don't remember any of the teachers. Like, I don't remember anything, really. I remember, like, friend groups I had, but I couldn't even remember half their names now. Like, it was bad.
Well, I think it's a culmination between the fact that you were smoking and it's also been 10 years.
Well, I mean, even if I had to guess now, because it's been that long, I don't even think I knew names when I was in the friend groups of some people. Like, it was just, like you said, I was going through the motions. Like, it was just, okay, well, I'm going to get high and then have lunch and then go free running. Like, I couldn't remember anything. And so it just kept going in circles like that, basically. But when I cut it, it was because I got caught from my parents, mostly my mom. And she made me stop. The nice way to put it. So, cold turkey, basically. I did smoke probably like 2 more times after that, and that was probably like 5 years ago. But other than that, I haven't touched it, never thought about doing it again, really.
Never had the urge to get back into it?
Not really, no. Like, now it just annoys me more than anything. Like, if it's something you do, I don't mind. It's just something I wouldn't do. Like, that's where that is. Like, if you smoke, if you do anything, I don't really care. It's your life, you do it.
Yeah.
But for me, it was just one that I was just like, oh, well, all right. Well, very sheltered. Somebody's like, hey, you want to try this? All right, yeah, I'll do it. And I just got addicted to it because I have an addictive personality. So then it's, I drink soda. Okay, well, I drink one. Well, I'm probably going to have like 6 of them in a day. Okay, well, energy drinks. Okay, I have one. Now I'm going to have like 10. Like, I was drinking like back in the day, the BFC monsters.
Oh, yeah, those things.
So I would have one of those, 3 regular ones, 2 shots, and then the Jaeger. That was like a daily routine for me.
I think the most I've ever drank in one day was when I went to a concert that Monster sponsored, and they had their own booth, and they were giving out free Monsters.
Yeah, see, I would die if that happened.
Oh, I had 12.
Yeah. Well, that was like a regular day for me.
Yeah, and I was just flying.
Yeah. But even those, like, I still drink them on occasion. It's not an everyday thing. It's not an addiction. It's just more I'm super tired after a week. Okay, I'll have one. But, like, I'll have 1 or 2 maybe a month, like, at most, for energy drinks in general. Sodas, I still drink. That's really not going to change. Vaping, nicotine, I have an addiction. I already know that. I was smoking hookah for a while, did chewing tobacco for a while, vape still, smoke cigars on and off. But none of them are an addiction enough that they're going to hurt me. But in the long run, they probably will. Because I'm positive drinking that many Dr. Peppers is not good. But then again, I don't know. There's a 104-year-old lady that says drinks 3 a day and she's good. Like, you're just not really sure of it.
Dr. Pepper is a entity in and of itself. It's delicious.
But it's just one of those things.
Dr. Pepper.
Right. But it is just one of those things. And I think the like mental side of it is more of like when you are addicted to something, it is hard to get around it.
Yeah.
Like it is one of those things.
You rely on it.
Yeah, so much. Like so much. And so it's like even without naming names, like we had a tattoo artist that did tattoos and he got arrested for something. So he was in jail for I think like 3 days. But my mom went to pick him up after and he needed like pills.
Yeah, he needed his fix.
Because he was having withdrawals that he was shaking like crazy. He couldn't walk. Like it was insane how bad it was. And even talking to him, it was like, hey, you need to stop. Like you're pissing blood. Like you need to stop. And it was just like, I'm so addicted. If I stop, I think I'm going to die.
And that's how a lot of people feel about it from what I've heard.
Yeah.
Because when you kick an addiction, especially cold turkey, when your body goes through withdrawals, it can be a hell of a ride.
Yeah.
And it's going to take you to your lowest lows you've ever been in, from what I've heard and the research I've done. But you just have to know that at the end of that dark tunnel, there's going to be a light, and it's going to help you feel so much better in the long run. Like usually, no matter what your addiction is, on the lighter substances, you would more than likely feel much better by the time you kick it and get over it, and then your body will work its way through the system, and then you'll be A-okay.
With that, have you ever had to deal with somebody with an addiction?
Yes.
What was it?
It was my dad.
Okay. So if you want to tell that story, you don't have to go full into detail, but
yeah,
whatever you're comfortable with.
For a while, he was very... I brought this up in a previous episode. For most of my young life, my dad wasn't around very much, and he was incarcerated in the local and not so local penitentiaries due to drug-related charges. For the harder substances, he never really did those. His main vice was weed, pot. Mm-hmm. But the weird part about it is everything... If he had gotten the same charges now as he did then...
Oh, yeah, different time.
Yeah, he would have got slapped with a misdemeanor instead of a felony.
Yeah.
But anyway, but going through that time was rough. He was gone 99% of the time, had no idea where. And when we did find out, my sister and I my mom would tell my sister and I that we were going to go see Dad in whatever prison he was in, and we had to put money on his books and all that stuff. And it was a tough time. Eventually, he got sent to a rehab facility, and that cleared him up pretty quick. Mm-hmm. Like, I think he wasn't there for long at all. And when he was finally released, he never even went back to that same neighborhood that he used to hang out in.
Yeah.
We almost moved just to keep him away from that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, he still sees people from that time a few times when he's at his work because they come visit. But every time they do, he separates himself, goes to the back, because he knows what he did in the rehab facility was to better himself.
Yeah. I mean, from seeing that and growing up with that, do you think that is one of the reasons that you stayed away from drugs?
Absolutely.
No.
Absolutely, without a doubt. Because I remember when I was younger, specifically telling him through a bulletproof glass pane
Mm-hmm.
in the visitation room, corded phone up to my head. Once you get out, if you start doing it again, I'm no longer your son.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to say I regret what I say, because at the time, that's exactly how I felt.
Yeah.
I felt it was a betrayal to me and my family,
Mm-hmm.
because he wanted to go off somewhere to go get high, go get his fix.
Yeah. From seeing him and being through that, do you think if he didn't get locked up, if he didn't get in trouble, it would have been worse down the road?
Absolutely. Because if he didn't get locked up, then he wouldn't have gotten the help he needed.
Okay.
He wouldn't have ever got sent to the rehab facility. He would more than likely still be out on the streets doing whatever, or
Worse.
Yeah, much worse.
Yeah. I mean, again, it was a different time, but it's also, thank God it was a different time for him, because like you said, like if it was today, it might have been just a slap on the wrist, but then who knows if it would have stopped.
Yeah,
or
where it would have gone from there.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, again, I think that's like you said, I think that's the reason you stayed away. But do you think you have an addictive personality from like family traits, or do you think you just have an addictive personality?
That I'm not too sure, because I usually don't get addicted to things easily. I'm not sure if that's what you meant by it.
Well, both. Like, does your family have addictive traits, and then do you think you do compared to them?
I would need further examples because I don't know. I honestly don't know, so probably no.
Okay. Well, further examples would just be like your dad with smoking. Like if he kept doing that, okay, then he kept doing it. That's an addictive personality. If your mom has something that she normally goes to and does, okay, does your sister have something she normally goes to and does? And then does that basically not turn you, but
condition me to
condition you
like
to
them.
become them? Yeah.
Going off of that, I would say more than likely with my mom and dad, yes.
Mm-hmm.
With my sister, no. Because for a while I was a child,
Mm-hmm.
like way younger, both my parents smoked cigarettes.
Okay.
Like chain smoked.
Yeah.
To the point where the headliner in our car was like orange,
Mm-hmm.
and it was bad.
Yeah, I know those days.
Yeah. But I know the reason my dad quit was because he was locked up, couldn't really get cigarettes. The reason my mom quit, to my knowledge, was one time when we were at Disneyland, I believe. We were standing in front of it looking at the Mickey mascot, just doing his thing. And she had the cigarette in between her fingers like they usually do. And she put her arm down. I was standing right next to her, and don't know whether I stepped into that area or she swung her arm out.
Mm-hmm.
But the cigarette went into my ear canal.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was pain beyond pain for me.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it did to my mom, but from then on, she didn't smoke.
Basically scarred her, and it's just like, oh God, I need to be more careful. And
yeah, if I want to be here for my kids
and
years down the road,
yeah,
then I need to stop doing this.
Yeah.
So she quit cold turkey.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's good though.
But she went on to other things.
Okay.
And I'm not saying other like illegal substances.
Mm-hmm.
She went from smoking cigarettes to chewing Trident gum.
Yeah.
And then from the gum to popcorn.
I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, that's a cigarette. Like that's
It's
really
not
what it is.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to say it's an addiction for the Trident, the popcorn, and then the M&Ms, which he's at now. I would call it more of an oral fixation.
Yeah, I was about to say it's just a fixation from smoking that like most people.
It's the act of bringing something to your mouth.
Well, it's that, and then like most people, it's always something salty, something chewy. Like it's always something like that. Because it's like when I stopped smoking hookah for a little bit, it was chips. Like I'd go straight to chips, like Cheez-Its, and I would just eat Cheez-Its all the time.
I love Cheez-Its.
Like that was it. Like that was my best way to not want to smoke. Was I need something else to do, and it was mostly like Cheez-Its or even sunflower seeds was one of mine as well. But that was more when I was like doing the dip, and I was doing chewing tobacco, and then I stopped. I had sunflower seeds in my mouth 24/7, but that's exactly like it, so that's why.
Yeah.
But okay, so conditioning sort of, but not really. It was like, again, you grew up watching it. So that's what I was wondering, was if it was more like you saw it, but you know, being a kid, you don't really understand addiction. You don't understand it. And then when you get older and like, oh, okay, I find something like vaping. Oh, I found something I like, and you do it. And then all of a sudden are you like, oh, this is just like mom and dad.
I don't think I was ever like that. No.
Okay.
To my knowledge, at least.
Yeah.
And I have pretty bad memory. But that being said, as of right now, going back to it, my only two addictions are nicotine and sugar.
Yeah. Okay. Because like I said, I have an addictive personality, and so it's like everyone knows that with me because it's also an addictive personality, and then it's not a perfectionist, but also just like I need to hone the craft kind of thing. So it's like when I started writing, I would write 24/7 and just do it over and over and over again. If I didn't like it, throw it away, I'd do it again. When I started drawing, same thing. I'd do it till I got good, and I'd be like, okay, next. And I just always had to find something, but then it became an addiction to a certain extent on like, you know, drawing and painting and stuff like that. I don't see as an addiction. That's just something to let art out kind of way.
Yeah,
but then
I would consider that more of a way to let your feelings out.
Yeah, but then it became like, okay, well, vaping, I found vape. Oh, I really like it. And then I just kept going. Hookah, okay, I really like it. And I just kept doing it.
Yeah, to my recollection, you got really far into vaping.
Well, yeah, but that was also, like, the vaping is different to a certain extent. Like, right now, addiction. About 10 years ago, job. So it was more of that. Because before, people were like, oh, you're addicted. And I'm like, no, I had an Instagram that was sponsored. I had companies that relied on me to put videos and pictures out. I had to use their products. I had to go to conventions. I had to go to shows. I had to go to shops. So it became an addiction because I had to do it so much. But then it was like after I was done with that and I left all that, it stayed with me. And so the nicotine part of it stayed, but the vaping isn't like the main.
Yeah, because you get your nicotine from multiple sources sometimes, depending on
I mean, I got it
from
a drink once, so if they had it, I tried it.
That doesn't sound healthy at all.
It wasn't at all. I felt really weird, but it was one of those things. Like it was.
Don't do that. Don't drink nicotine. That's bad.
Well, no. It wasn't like no, because pure nicotine can kill you. Like the only actual studies of nicotine hurting somebody is pure nicotine getting in your skin or your system. Then it can kill you. But other than that, nicotine doesn't really hurt you. It's just an addictive substance. Like that's all it is. Yeah. So it's one of those things. But for me, it was like that addictive trait is always there for me. So it was like when I got my motorcycle accident, my mom told me like that as soon as they were like, okay, you're getting prescribed Norco.
Ooh.
She was like, hey, if you get stuck on those, I'm throwing you in rehab. And he was like, okay, I'm not. And then I was taking 3 Norcos a day for 10 days. So it was 30 Norcos in 10 days.
Yikes.
And so like it didn't really become addictive or anything. It really was just, I'm in pain, take one. 8 hours later, I need another one. 8 hours later, I need another one. Like it was just that every time. I wake up, take one. Before I go to sleep, take one. And then there's one in between the day. But then after the surgery, they prescribed me Percocet.
That's just exchanging the hammer for an axe.
Yeah, exactly. So then I took one of those, and then my mom was like, if you get addicted to that, you are in rehab. The next day, you're not coming out until you're not. And I took one, and I thought I was awake playing a video game, and my TV wasn't even on. Like I was just so high from it. It was ridiculous. And I was just like, okay, I woke up from it, and I went, nope, and I threw them in my closet, and I never touched another one. I had like 60 of them And I was just like, nope, threw them away like a month later.
Yeah.
Like not like I crushed them and threw them away, but it was one of those. Like it just became that. But for me, I wasn't too worried about getting stuck on that because I saw my mom get addicted to them once. So like, you know, she had her job, she got hurt, and she ended up like breaking her back, and then she broke her wrist once. But the back one, they used to have to go in and do a syringe, like a needle in her spine and fix it.
Yeah, an epidural.
Yeah. So they would do that like once a month or whatever it was. Like it was a good amount. And so she had like Norco, she had opioids that she would take, and she just became addicted to them. Like she didn't work a full year. She was on the couch every day, taking probably, if I had to guess, 5 or 6 a day, and just sitting on the couch, just losing weight, losing muscle, like just laying there.
That's
And
depressing.
like you tried to help her and she would not let you get near her. Like, hey, go do this for me, go do that for me. And that was it. Like it was, you had nothing you could do. And so like I saw that, and then she, again, I think she saw where it was taking her, and so she was able to lean off them. It wasn't quit them, but it was able to lean off, not taking 5, taking 2, okay, taking 1, okay, taking once a week, and then not taking any whatsoever. And so I think remembering that especially, and then them going, hey, your turn to have one. I was like, no, like
Yeah.
I don't need that. Like that's just too much. Like if that happens to me, again, I know my personality. I know my trait on it. That if I like how the Percocet made me feel, I'd be like, oh,
Yep.
let me take all of them and then let me just milk it as long as I can. But if I did that, who knows where I'd be.
Yeah.
So I was happy that I was able to see it, because like for me, that was the recovery, I guess, process of it. Cause like mentally I was really ready to just take them. Cause I was just like, oh, like, you know, it's one of those things that you take it and you don't think anything. Like it is so, you're out. Like you're just so high, nothing else matters.
Yeah, you basically teleport through time.
Yeah, and I was just like, yeah, this feels really nice, but in the end, it wouldn't have been. Like in the end, who knows where I would have been. So again, I was happy I didn't get addicted to them, but I know I would have.
Yeah. The only prescription medication that I've been given that some may call addictive was Vicodin and benzo.
So before mine, I would never take pills. Like I never took any medicine before that.
Yeah.
Before I got the Norco and the Percocet, the most medicine I took was once when I had a fever. That was like 105 point something. Like it was just right below
the
melting.
bad territory.
Yeah, it was right below like melting. They gave me a pill and they're like, you have to take this. And I was like, I can't. And they made me swallow it. And then I threw up like 5 minutes later and my fever went down pretty quick, but I don't know what it was.
No. Hey, I feel great.
That's basically what happened. And then other than that, I had a very, very severe cough once and they had to give me pills. And I said, I can't do pills.
Yeah.
So instead they gave me the liquid, and it was the purple, whatever stuff that was. And I had to take like 3
Tablespoons?
No, I think it was 2 tablespoons every 3 hours.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was severe. It was very bad. I had 2 bottles of it, 64-ounce bottles, and I had to go through 2 of them in like 1 week.
Jesus.
Yeah, it was bad. Like I couldn't go to school. I couldn't do anything. Like I felt like I was going to die every time I coughed. But even that medicine was one of those addictive ones, and it really was. Like even at that young age, I was, all right, let me put it in my Sprite. Let me put it in like my 7-Up. Because I would be drinking 7-Up and Sprite because clear soda, that's just how we always felt bad. You'd always have soup and that. And so I just started putting it in it. I was just like, okay, I'm supposed to take how many? 6 teaspoons and tablespoons in the next 6 hours? All right, let me just drink that and play my video game. And I just started drinking it. And then I'd be like, oh, well, it's time. And I take a shot, not have to drink anything with it. And it just became regular for me. Like it tasted like soda by the end. And I was just like, this is really good. And I have no idea if it was making me high, if it was making me do anything. But it was as soon as like I had to stop taking it and I didn't have any more, I remember going like, Mom, do I need to get more? And like, I didn't even know it was addictive. Like I didn't know I was addicted at that point because I was like, is this it? Is
Yeah,
that all I got?
you were young. You were too young to know about addiction.
Like I knew what it was, but I didn't know I was addicted to something.
Yeah.
So it was like one of those things that I was happy that once it was out, I didn't need it. But then being older and actually understanding, now you're like, oh,
Yeah. Oh, that stuff
Okay.
was bad.
Yeah, no, it was one of those. So I was like, okay, well, I'm glad I'm not addicted to it anymore, so that's good.
Yeah. Yeah, when I was prescribed Vicodin, it was right when I had my wisdom teeth pulled. And
I still need to do that.
Oh yeah, I had all 4 of them out.
I
I have no more wisdom. I'm the dumb.
That's one keep in mind. Because I know once they're out, I don't have any wisdom left.
But for the benzos, they actually prescribed me that for a cough.
Okay.
It was an interesting thing because I don't know why they were giving me that for a cough, but I can understand it at the same time. Because one of the things that it also did was reduce cough. In all honesty, I took maybe a day's worth of it, and to me, it didn't make me feel any better or worse. So I was just like, screw it.
Okay.
I'm not gonna have any.
So you never got really addicted to it or anything like that?
No, same with the Vicodin. The Vicodin, yeah, it dulled the pain a little bit, but it never screwed with my head.
Okay.
I didn't even finish off the bottles it gave me, and it was like a 2 weeks worth or something like that.
Okay.
For the Vicodin, and for the benzos, it was like a month's worth.
Well, I mean, staying on the topic of addiction, you said you had a porn addiction.
Yes.
What would that be labeled? How would you explain that one?
Ritualistic. If I had to put it into one word.
Okay.
Because it's one of the things that I have to take care of. Well, I say have to. I don't have to. I want to. I effectively take care of it once a day.
Okay.
Right before going to bed, because to me, it calms me down, gets me into the right mind space to crawl into bed and have pleasant dreams. Not the dirty kind. That happened before I went to sleep.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, being addicted to it, how is it an addiction besides like a daily thing?
I mean, usually I just look at it once a day just for that time.
Well, I mean, for me, like an addiction is something that you do a lot, but you also think about it pretty regularly. You want to do it more, like all of that.
Oh, for a while, I actually wanted to write stories.
Okay.
Like dirty stories.
Uh-huh. Porn stories, you can say it.
Yeah. I you know how I feel.
I know.
I still feel slightly uncomfortable even saying like sex and shit.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yes, I was going to write porn stories.
Okay. I'm just saying. Like I've said it 3 times and you're like, ah.
I know, but that's you. And
no, I know. I'm very open.
Yeah, we're different. Anyway, most of the stories involve. I don't want to say involved. Actually, yeah, I do. Most of the stories involved what I had previously done before, during sex.
BDSM. Got it. So
you're not wrong.
I know.
Actually.
But with it being addiction, is that one of those things that's like you have to find a certain one to watch? You have to make sure of certain things. Like, is it an addiction to that extent to where it's like you have to have this, this, and this? Or is it just more of like you said, a ritual kind of thing where you're just like, I just need to do this to go to sleep. So what am I going to do?
It really depends on what I want. Well, going back to your question, it is trying to find a specific video.
Okay.
Because there will be times when I want to watch one thing like BDSM play. There will be other times when I want to watch solo activities.
Okay.
Basically, it just depends on how I feel that day and what I think would fit that little box.
Okay. So you see it as an addiction, though.
I mean, you see it as an addiction. I see it as a fun time.
No, I said as an addiction that you have, and you said this.
I mean...
So it's an addiction.
Depending on who you ask, yes.
Okay. So with it being your addiction, would you ever cut it out?
That I'm not sure. Not 100% sure.
Okay. Follow-up question. Do you think it's an addiction because you're single?
Yes.
Well, because that's how I'm seeing it. Like if you weren't
Yeah.
single, if you were in a relationship, you were having sex, you were, having intercourse, whatever it was, would that be a priority still? Would that be one of those things you're like, okay, I need to do this
No.
every night to go to sleep?
No. If I was with somebody and we had regular sex, then no. I don't feel like I would need the porn. What?
I want to make a joke.
Then make a joke.
You're not going to have regular sex. You might have sex regularly, but you're not having regular sex.
In regular increments.
Oh, okay. There's no such thing as regular sex.
Oh, calm down.
I'm just saying. But no, that's how I was seeing it. Was if it was more of an addiction, like if it is something that you're like, oh, I need this, I need.
Yeah,
like,
I can't live without
yeah,
this.
like
But
if you missed a day, are you going to be shaking the next day? Like, like,
no, it'll just be a bigger load.
Okay, yeah, that also. Thank you for putting that image in. Oh, I missed 4 days. Oh, okay.
Time to get the towel.
Okay, so you saw it as more of that.
Yeah. For me, I guess you can kind of say that it wasn't really. It's not really an addiction. It's a habit.
Okay.
Because, like I said, I do it once a day, right before I go to bed.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Do you think it messes, like this is a little bit outside of an addiction, but we'll go back to it. Do you think it messes with you a little bit, though, looking for a relationship?
In a sense, yes.
In the sense being?
It's a bleak way to look at it and kind of depressing in another word that won't come to my mind. But why should I find somebody to do it for me when I can do it myself?
Uh-huh.
I mean, I know what I like.
You can reach that far down?
Surprisingly, yeah.
Whoa.
I'm surprisingly flexible for being a big guy.
Okay. Or it's that big. No, anyways. No, but again, like you saw it as, like I said, I was just wondering if it was more like, okay, you meet a girl, but are you like, oh, you have to do like this kind of stuff they do. But that's a different episode. But again, I just wanted to ask that question because we're in the topic right now.
Yeah. If I meet a girl, I don't feel like I would really need porn.
Okay. Because mine, it did and didn't mess with me to a certain extent because it's like, okay, you find something important that you like and then you find somebody in real life and you end up dating and you're like, hey, we should try this. And they're like, no, that's not going to be for me. And it was one of those like, well, I'm just going to watch a video then. And then other times I had relationships where they're like, well, if we're together, you don't need to watch porn because that's like cheating.
I don't know why people see porn as cheating.
To a certain extent, I get it. Fully understanding.
Well, yeah,
no.
I get it, but I don't understand why.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to see that person ever. I'm not touching them or anything like that. Another episode, Yeah,
but it is one of those things that's back and forth because you can go, well, you're never going to see them. Well, they'll never see Johnny Depp. Okay, well, then they can send them messages on Twitter or Instagram and it doesn't matter, or they're going to, whatever it is. Oh, I can talk to somebody online that I'll never meet. Like, there is a lot of different ways to go around it. But again, we'll get into that subject on a different episode. So, with the addiction part of it, is there anything else that has popped up at all?
I don't believe so. Not to my knowledge.
Yeah, because mine, again, like my addictive personality is more of that. So it's like when I like shoes, you'd go in my closet and I'd have 30 pairs of boxes like in there with different shoes. And I'm like, I want everyone, like kind of thing.
Yeah. And then you go to my room and I have boots.
A month later, I'm like, okay, I don't want any of these anymore. Okay, new thing. And then I just go to the next and go to the next and go to the next kind of.
Okay. Well, if we're talking about material things, then yes.
Well, no, I'm not talking material things. I'm just saying like that was one of my addictive personalities. It was, I found one thing and I'm like, okay, let me be addicted to it. And it's just,
well, you already know my one thing similar to that.
Guns.
Yes.
Yeah, that's not really addiction. That's safety.
Yeah. Some people call it a problem. It's only a problem if you're going to break into my house.
Yeah. But it's, again, one of those things that it's just, I was just wondering on the addictive side, because, you have this AI story, right, that you put in.
I do. I wrote it this time. Surprise.
Well, actually, the AI wrote it.
I wrote the prompt.
He wrote the prompt.
I wrote the prompt.
I was like, I can't say it's an AI story if you wrote it, sir.
Exactly.
But I saw some of it, and I'm just a little peek of it, I guess I'm going to do.
A little snippet.
Well, yeah. In it talks about like medication being addictive, right?
Yes.
And so a lot of people don't understand and never knew that when they used to do studies on addiction before the mid 1990s, they'd only did study on guys. Women were not involved in studies for addiction before the 90s.
Really?
Yeah. So it always made guys look bad. Always. Because it's, okay, well, this percentage of guys are addicted to alcohol. This percentage of guys are addicted to drugs. And it went around that way. And then people finally went, hey, we kind of need the whole truth. And they added women to it. And it was crazy looking at it because it used to be so opposite. And then now it's more even. And it's sad that it's even. But it was crazy looking at it because it was showing that, mid 90s to now. The male side of it was addicted more to drinking, to alcohol, to stuff like that, to that extent. For women, they were more addicted to opioids.
Really?
Because, well, one, men don't seek out help. So instead of going to a doctor and them prescribing them something, they end up going to the bar and getting prescribed a Bud Light. And so it'd be that for a while.
I'm here to fill my prescription. I need one Hennessy.
Basically what it was. And then women would go, and it's, the same thing with ADHD, how more guys are diagnosed with it than women. But then when women are, most of them are diagnosed with depression and anxiety first before it's actually known as ADHD, because they see it more as, oh, well, they just wander off. They have a blank space, blah, blah, blah. And it goes like that. And so they normally get prescribed medicine. And so on that one, they went, and it was like complete opposites, because then they looked at women's studies on drinking and guys on opioids. And like I just said, because one's prescribed more because they actually seek out help, because we're men and we're not supposed to.
Yeah.
It showed that guys are addicted to drinking way before they started getting addicted to pain medication and opioids, where it's the exact opposite with women. But in studies recently, it's now almost even, where women and guys are evenly addicted, and same with the drugs, because now more guys are seeking out help. But again,
which is a good thing, by the way.
No, it's great that they're actually seeking out help, but then they're not helping themselves after, because then they get addicted to something. And again, like, you get addicted and it just keeps going up a level and up a level and up a level. And it's hard to fully understand where you need the help again, because you just get so stuck in a hole that it's hard for them to crawl out of. Yeah. But when you actually look at the studies, it is pretty crazy to see how even, and how, again, before the mid 90s, it was only guys. Studies were only done on guys for addiction. And in that, it talks about like, okay, well, they could prescribe you something, but if it's something bad, they don't want you to overly do it, or else you get addicted to it. And I'm like, that's exactly what it is. And I think that's one reason some people are afraid to ask for help, is I also think some people might be like me and go, I know I have an addiction problem, that I have an addictive personality, that if I go and ask for help, I'm going to be one of those case studies. I'm going to be one of those guys that goes
I will be a statistic.
I got whatever drug they gave me, and now I'm addicted to it because I have an addictive personality, but I can't not take it because I want to help myself. But then if I take it, I'm going to hurt myself. And it just becomes that catch-22 where you're like,
vicious cycle.
And it's crazy to look at it. But with that being said, if you have an addiction, if you're addicted to anything at all, reach out for help if you need it. If it's not as severe, you might not need as much help as you think. If it is, like me, shoes at one point, it's really not that hard to throw some out. I'm not going to lie to you. It's really not that hard. You don't need 47 pairs of shoes. Random number. I swear that's not how many I had. But
he's lying.
It is. And so it's like that. But then if you're addicted to drugs or alcohol, seek the help. Go to rehab, do whatever you need to help. But for me, I see it sad, again, from the male side. Because when you see, for me, women that are addicted or need help, they seek it and they get it real quick. Where for some guys it is, I need help, and it's just,
Yeah, I can kick
rub
it
some
on
dirt.
my own.
Yeah.
I'll go cold turkey.
Yeah, exactly. And then it just becomes a worse problem for them. And so if you need help, ask for it.
Yeah.
If you need...
Do not be scared to ask for it. Nobody's going to think of you differently. Nobody's going to judge you.
No.
Just, you're doing something to better yourself, and for that, we are proud of you.
Very. But I think it's time for you to read the story that you wrote the prompt for, and the AI wrote the rest.
All right. I get to read it this time.
Yeah, I'm too tired.
Yeah, we had a long day. We're both pretty tired, but we'll try and keep this short and sweet. It's not going to be a very long story. It's 3 paragraphs. But I feel it encompasses a decent amount in general. So the prompt I put in was, as my addiction grew, I knew I was in over my head. The AI continues with, so I began to research the history of drugs and alcohol and found out that all addictive substances are illegal at one point or another during their time of use. Of course, I had always known this instinctively, but it felt good to have a scientific basis for my feelings on this issue. The more I read about drug prohibition, the more it seemed obvious to me. Governments only make things illegal because they want people to hooked. It's like how they used to tax cigarettes and other tobacco products way above market value. There was absolutely no public health reason to do so. They just wanted us addicted. I also learned that every drug has some medical application, yet our government blocks access to them. What kind of doctors would we be if we were allowed to prescribe heroin? Our lives depend on it. If you think about it, it makes sense. They know that any safe form of drug will eventually turn into an addiction, so they don't want us taking anything at all. That way they can control the population like cattle. People who are prescribed addictive medications must be closely monitored by their physicians, who are almost never paid well enough to care for their patients. I've seen firsthand what happens when doctors become too attached to their patients. The truth is, governments are the source of all the problems. We need a new system that puts power back where it belongs with the individual. No more laws, no more taxes, no more needless war. A free society to be built from the bottom up, starting with the basic right to privacy. Only then can we truly achieve happiness. It got pretty political at the end, but I felt the first couple paragraphs were actually pretty decent and relative to the subject at hand.
I was going to say the same thing. To a certain extent, it got political, but at the same time, I kind of agree with most of it. After reading it, is there anything you think of? Because I have something in mind, but is there anything that you thought of reading it?
Not off the top of my head, because this is the second time I've read it.
Yeah.
But what do you think? What are you thinking?
So when they say like the addictive part for like a doctor and the patient, right? I can't help but to think of like Michael Jackson.
Very true.
And I can't help but to think of like other like rap artists and stuff like that have had that, where the doctor was like, oh, well, it's this person, so I'm going to give them whatever they want. And then like Michael Jackson overdose.
Didn't Robin Williams go out the same way as well?
No comment on that. I have no idea because I don't really care about him.
Anyway, continue.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know what happened with him. All I know is he's not here anymore. Like, again, RIP, but I just never really followed that guy. Because like Michael Jackson only did because all over the news, like it was. And it was like one of those things that the addictive part of that and the addiction part of that is they both had an addiction, but it was like complete opposite kind of addiction. Because you have somebody like Michael Jackson that was addicted to whatever pill it was. And okay, I need more, I need more, I need more. And then you have a doctor that's addicted to being his fix.
Yeah,
To
being the famous person's doctor.
Exactly. To be able to be like, I get to do this for him. And
I get to meet Michael Jackson.
Yeah. So it's like, it's crazy to look at it that way to where you're like, I've never looked at it through that scope of you can have an addiction to being somebody's person.
That's where you were going with that.
Yeah.
And I completely agree. That is actually a surprising point.
Right?
Because some people are very codependent. Mm-hmm. Some people rely on other people. I don't want to say way too much, but sometimes it is. Mm-hmm. Damn, that's...
Yeah, no, it made me think of that. Because it was just making me think like, okay, like somebody had an addiction to something. The doctor was like, well, I like being this. And I was just like, wait, that could be anybody. That could be anybody in a relationship going like, oh, I want to be their addiction.
So you mean I'm somebody's addiction?
Probably not, but...
Damn it.
No, your Pornhub Premium's addiction.
I have not paid for porn.
Oh, okay, sorry.
That is a lie. I paid for OnlyFans.
Okay, well, you're somebody's addiction, I guess. I don't know. But no, it really comes down to that, where I was just thinking about it that way. I'm like, somebody could have an addiction to either being that person for somebody else or even having the addiction of wanting to be that person for somebody else. Somebody could have it to where it's like, I want to be the one that she looks at and goes like, oh, he's giving me this, he's doing that for me, blah, 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 blah. Like everything, he loves me so much. And that's what you want more.
Yeah, you want validation.
Yeah, and it becomes an addiction. Where I'm like, again, that's not a bad one to have, but at the same time, do not take advantage of it.
Yeah.
That is the other thing, because that's what happens with addiction. Is you get it, and at first you're like, well, it's not going to hurt me too much, or I'm not going to hurt anybody. But in the long run, if you don't take care of it and you don't control it, and it becomes the addiction, it's going to be too late by the time you do.
Yeah, by the time you realize, it's going to be far too late.
And it's just one of those things that, again, I hope people can understand and see that addiction is pretty crazy. It is one of those things that some people can see in themselves and they try to take care of it as fast as they can. Sometimes you need a family member or a friend to go, hey, wake up.
Yeah. Hey, come back to reality. Come on.
Like there's times that, you know, we've had friends that have been addicted to stuff that they shouldn't have been to. And we tried to help and we couldn't at times. And there's other times we did. But in the end, it is that person's responsibility to push themselves to what they need.
Yeah.
If they need the help, you can guide them to the door. It doesn't mean they're going to stay.
Yeah, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Exactly. And so it just comes down to that point to where, you know, if you have a friend, family member that is addicted to anything, help them out.
Yeah.
Be the person of reason for them. And don't beat yourself up if you can't help them also. Because, again, some people, like we just said, you can lead them to water, they're not going to drink it.
Yeah.
And so you have to understand that everyone does have their own life. Everyone does make their own decisions. Yeah. I just hope for most of us, at least for me, I do, that the decisions I make are helpful.
Yeah.
And I understand. Again, this addiction for me is, I look at it through a lot of different scopes because I've had different ones. There's times I've been addicted to tattoos. There's times I've been addicted, again, to drawing, to writing, to soda, to vape, to weed. But in the end, I can see what they are. In the end, I understand, like, hey, this is what the problem is. So, Chris, you need to wake up.
Yeah.
And so I help myself as much as I can on it. And now being older and seeing it faster, it's very hard to get me to be addicted to something new.
Yeah. And one thing before we sign out for the night, some of the words that one of the phrases that I remember is, "You are your greatest obstacle." You are your greatest critic or your worst critic. The only person standing in your way of success or failure is you.
Or recovery.
Yeah. And we all know that. We all know that we can be our own worst enemy sometimes. But you just have to know that in the end, you can get through it. You can recover. You can make it through whatever you need to do and prosper. Go far beyond your own expectations. And it's astounding how many people just say, "Oh, I can't do it." It's not that you can't do it. It's that you don't want to put the effort in. But we're not here to discuss that at this current time. I just wanted to throw that in as something that was ringing in my head for a while. Mm. But if any of you need help with addiction or anything like that, please go get whatever help you need. Seek somebody out. If we helped you out, then that makes me feel great. If you feel like you need to talk to somebody closer to you, go find them. Go talk to them. They're not going to think any less of you because of it. So, yeah.
I'm just going to end it with this. If you haven't been told this, I'm sorry, but you are not a burden. If you need help, seek help. We love you. Good night.
See you next time.